Hello, my name is Jessica Maher, and this is assignment 3 for EDN462. My student number is 33043751. The child that I've used for this assignment is Gary, which is a pseudonym. He is 4 years old and in kindergarten. He is known to me through a family that have allowed me to use their daughter in the past, and I've now started using the son for assignment 2. In assignment 2, I noticed that Gary was using the words big and small quite a lot to describe things. We used Play-Doh to make snakes. While he rolled out the snakes, he would say one was bigger than the other one, or one was smaller than the other. So I progressed with that and used attribute apples, and he placed them into different piles. This is the big pile, this is the small pile. Didn't really have a word for the middle, saying just kind of left them out, didn't say they were a medium apple or anything. Just put them to the side. We also had animals in one of my activities, and he would put them in the biggest to the smallest, saying the giraffes are here, the elephants are here because they're the bigger ones. We'll put the birds over here, we'll put dingoes over here because they're smaller, and he had lined them all up bigger to smaller. So for assignment 3, I decided to use measurement as something for him to try. I decided to use indirect measurement for my 3 activities using hefting objects, length, and area. These are all based on activities that were found in book 1 of measurement for first steps, and I incorporated them and had a bit of fun with them. In doing this assignment, Gary was actually doing one of the foundation level elaborations, ACMM G006 for pre-primary. This was indirect and direct comparisons. So I thought this was a very good introduction for him when he starts school next year. So for the first lesson, I decided to do hefting objects. For this lesson, I brought in 3 shoe boxes, all identical widths and heights, and I brought in different objects inside. I brought in books for one, all of my pencils, markers, everything for the second box. And for the last box, I brought in all my fabrics and wools and everything, so all light things for him to guess what might be in the boxes. I placed all 3 boxes in front of him on the table and asked him to guess which one might be the heaviest. He at first picked the middle box and told me that he was sure it was the heaviest one. He hadn't not picked up the boxes, he hadn't pushed the box, he just looked at it and decided that was the one. It was a pure guess and was not correct. So I asked him to have a look. If I moved all the boxes around, would he still think it was going to be the middle box? He said he didn't know which one it would be because I had moved them around and they could be any of them, even though he did not know which one was initially the heavy box. So finally I got him to pick up each of the boxes, or push boxes, whatever he wanted to do with it, and have a feel of the boxes and see which one he thought was the heaviest box. So he picked up each of the boxes, first picking up the ones with all of the markers and stationery in it, and said that was the heaviest one. But I had kind of done it as a bit of a trick because it was medium, it wasn't too heavy. But as he picked up the box with the books in it, he realized that was a lot heavier, but still wasn't sure which one was heaviest. So he kept picking up, saying these are the heavy boxes, but eventually realized he could not lift the box with the books in it and decided that must be the heavy box. He then picked up the light box with all the materials and wool and everything in it and declared that was the lightest box. So I made sure to include the focus questions that I designed before I went into the lesson. How do you know this box is the heaviest box? And does it look like it might be heavier than this box? What do you think could be in this box? So he did actually have a shake of each box and guess what might be in there. And he told me that he believed rocks was in one of the boxes because it was so heavy, and that there was socks in another box because it was so easy to carry. And it was actually materials and wool in there, so he wasn't far off. It was a good guess. For my second lesson, I decided to do length with Gary. I brought in different materials that I had in the other box. We unrolled them and went through each roll. There was actually these that you can see here, all different lengths. But I had thicker pieces, I had triangles that I didn't get a photo of, and he compared everything. But at first I wanted them to just do the lengths with the string pieces. So for this lesson, I made sure to use my focus questions. Which one do you think is longer and why? How do you know the pink is the longest? What can we do to make sure they all start together? So when I asked him which one he thought was the longest, he couldn't tell me straight off which one was the longest. He had a point around and was moving them around. So I went straight for the what can we do to make sure they all start together. Once I asked him that, he said it was like a race. And the blue started and the red started here. The blue stopped first, and the pink is the biggest. So he actually placed down a blue piece of cloth and then lined up the two pieces of material off the edge of it like a racetrack. And he said that when you race along the track, that it stopped. And the blue stopped first, and then the pink kept going. So the pink must be the biggest or the longest because it kept going. So once he realized that it was a starting point and an ending point, he then aligned up the two red pieces that I had in another pile and brought them over as well and lined them up to see which of those two were the longest. Once we started comparing which one was the winner and which one was the loser by seeing which one was the longest, he started taking the biggest ones away so that he had the winner pile. We started doing that with the triangle pieces of material that I had and some other thicker pieces of material. He'd line them up and then tell me that this is the winner pile and take the longest one and put it into that winner pile, and I got the loser pile. So he was showing me that he understood which one was longer and which one was shorter, which one was bigger, and he would overlap them and could tell me which one overlapped more and what he could see on the outside. So for this lesson, I brought in my materials again, and I got him to take out some of his favorite cars that he had in a box in the living room. So he brought them out to me, and we lined all the cars up on different pieces of the material that I had. He got this pretty quickly. It didn't need much explaining. He was onto it straight away. We started lining all of the cars onto the material. He said it was like a train track that he was making for the long one, and then a car park for the shorter piece. In doing this exercise, I got him to think about how many cars were on each piece. So I believe that the longest piece, the pink, we had 14 cars on that one, and he counted them all with me. We had a second piece, the blue piece of material, and he put all the same cars along there, but only 13 fit on there. And when I asked him why only 13 fit on that one when we could get 14 onto the other one, he said it was because it was longer. So he knew the difference, not the material and the area affected it. We moved all of the cars onto a smaller piece, well, what he assumed to be the smaller piece of material, but we actually fit, I think it was 18 cars onto it. And when he counted all of the cars out, he couldn't believe that the smaller piece held more than the long piece. So that was a good thing for him to see. We actually used a couple of different pieces of material. I used a triangular piece of material that he placed all of the cars around the outside that I didn't get a picture of. And he fit 21 onto the first piece. And when I asked him to do the same again with the other piece of cloth, he only got 17 onto it that time. So when I asked him what happened, and does more cars mean this must be a bigger piece of material, he said this one's bigger because it had 21 and that one had 17. I had to put the other cars into the middle. So he had placed them in the middle of the triangle because he couldn't fit them with the rest. When I asked him, he could understand that it was a bigger piece that he was using than the smaller triangle. So during this lesson, I found that Gary was a quite difficult child to control. He's very hyperactive and inquisitive and wanted to keep going with every activity that we did. So each activity did take quite a long time. But during each activity, he understood what he needed to do. He had a lot of fun and he was able to do all of the indirect measurements, holding the cars along the edges and comparing them. He knew that one was bigger because it held more and one was shorter because it didn't hold as many. So from there, I believe that I'd move him on, probably do some more with indirect measurements, but also furthering him with direct measurements, see how well he can compare different objects. He's only 4 years old and he's already completed most of ACM G006, which is use direct and indirect comparisons to decide which is longer, heavier, or holds more, and explains reasoning in everyday language, which is a foundation level elaboration. I thought this was pretty good for a 4-year-old, and like he is on track, even though he does have a bit of trouble concentrating and getting into lessons. This assignment showed me that play-based learning was perfect for Gary, that he was able to engage and have fun while still learning. And it was noticeably beneficial for him because he was very engaged. He wanted to do all the activities. He wanted to show me how he could compare the different lengths, how he could do this, and he knew everything. A part of my philosophy has always been to create a fun atmosphere and have fun with the students, make learning fun in general, and play-based learning does that for me. So incorporating this into all aspects of learning, not just maths class, would be definitely beneficial, especially for somebody like Gary, who is hard to focus. Yes, that is my assignment. Thank you.